Welcome everyone to Mongols. This is our Sacramento Republic Insider episode where we're going to take a quick look at the Hounds' next opponent, Sac Republic. Joining me for this one is Luis, Sharon, and Jared of the State of the Republic podcast. Guys, thank you for joining me. First of all, Sharon, we were talking a little bit off air. Can you give us an overview of sort of State of the Union and sort of your team and what you guys have cooking over there?
Oh my goodness, thank you. Put me on the spot. Usually Luis takes this one, but I love it because everybody knows that we all like to talk, all three of us. So Luis started the podcast years ago, and mostly it was initially about Sacramento Republic. And then we decided that it was going to grow to Central Valley Soccer. So not only do we talk about the Republic, which is our main focus, but we talk about other issues. We talk about the USL in general. We talk a little bit about MLS when we're bashing them. No, not just that. And then Luis is our expert on everything south of Sacramento, all of the men's leagues and women's leagues south of Sacramento. Jared is huge on following the women's leagues, and he's a huge California Storm fan, and he has all the gear. He has everything he needs. He has stickers. He's got it all, and he lives in Kilgore, Texas. Luis lives in Modesto, about an hour and a half south of Sacramento, and I live in Elk Grove. So we've covered pretty much all the Central Valley Soccer, and that's kind of been what we do. And we're the only fan-based podcast, here in Sacramento, covering Sacramento Republic. And we invite other guests in. We have a chat group that we can pull from if we need more insight and more opinions. And so it's great. And Mike, thank you so much for asking all of us to come on and speak about Sacramento Republic FC.
Listen, this is one of my favorite things to do is these insider shows, because getting to connect with other sort of similar, I don't want to say like-minded, but just other groups that are out there trying to talk about their teams and grow the collective consciousness about their teams is just fantastic. And so this has been one of the best things that I get to do. Luis, Sharon mentioned that you started the show 4 years ago. What was sort of the impetus for doing that? What made you think I'm going to do this? Let's go.
I think I talked about soccer a little too much with people who weren't soccer fans before that they may have gotten annoyed for a little bit. So I just figured, it was 2020. It's the pandemic. I started the show. I started a few other shows as well. Like I'm currently hosting another talk show that I do for my area code here. And so soccer has just been my life since forever. And every time I would go to see a Sac Republic game, I would usually go with just like one person, and that would be the person that would hear everything. They would hear all my thoughts about the game. They would hear, my hype for the game, post game. I would be talking to them as I was driving back home. So
I can verify that. I can totally verify that.
So I think it was only natural for me to be like, you know what, let's start a podcast. Let me see who can jump on board with it. And initially we had Michael Wood. He's the other one who helped me start this podcast. And unfortunately, he moved away and he moved to an area that doesn't have good signal. So he had to step away from the podcast a few years back. But thankfully, we had Sharon already, and Jared stepped up as an amazing substitution that was a starter that we didn't know of at the time. And so it's been working out great having us three on the podcast. And every time we talk, this is how we talk in real life. And we get really excited the few times that we've been able to all be in the same spot, which has happened a few times, especially 2 years ago when we went over to Orlando for the Cup final.
Oh, nice. That's awesome. Jared, let's start talking about Sac Republic just a little bit. I always like to ask sort of an open-ended question. So let's just start very general. What do you like about Sac Republic this year?
Well, given the fact that we've had Russell Cicerone back from injury again, he has just been a spark plug from the get-go until his recent injury. The team chemistry is getting back to where it was back in May and early June. Unfortunately, we had lost both Rodrigo Lopez and Russell Cicerone to injury. Roro, of course, is out for the rest of the season. But with the past couple of weeks, that chemistry that we previously had when everybody was in the lineup is finally back. Everybody's working as a cohesive unit, whether it comes to defense, going into the attacking third, and also the fact that the players are very strong into the community. I mean, for example, you see Luis Felipe Fernandez helped Roro's son out when he had to go for open heart surgery. I mean, not only did Luis Felipe help out, but also the community and the rest of the team. So, I mean, you got to love when you see clubs that represent the city both on the field and off the field. But as far as our lineup goes, I mean, we have Kieran Phillips, who we have from our sister club, Huddersfield Town AFC. He has just been magnificent. And then, of course, couple players that we did, welcome from Pittsburgh, so to speak. I mean, we have Russell, of course, Danny Vitiello, and Shane Wheat. They have just been amazing. I mean, there's a reason why we decided to pick them up, because Pittsburgh, is historically has been a great team. They've been a veritable powerhouse in the Eastern Conference. I mean, nowadays there's a little bit of a struggle, but I see them, working their way back up before the season's end. But it's really difficult not to like Republic FC.
Yeah, I mean, listen, perennially, you guys always seem to be near the top of the table. It's no different this year. Second place so far in the West, a little bit up and down over the course of the season, but standings wise, you're doing really well. Sharon, I'll give you the tough one. What don't you like about Sac Republic this year?
Well, the fact that we did not, there was one thing I don't like about Sac Republic is the fact that we didn't get the sponsorship from either Joseph A. Banks or the Men's Warehouse for all the freaking ties that we had where we dropped points. Come on, Jared started that meme for us last year or the year before. I forget when we had like massive numbers of ties, and it just has stuck with us. Like Rhode Island has like a good amount of ties, and so we were thinking they were going to take it over. But why didn't we go after when I know it would have been too humorous, but the ties really chap my hide. I'll tell you what, we just can't be doing that. And the other thing that everyone here on this podcast, well, maybe except you, Mike, we don't like losing at home. And so those are some of the things that, we hope we get to clean up going forward. And the fact that we didn't qualify further into the US Open Cup this year, because I mean, that's such a big tournament, and that was huge, but we did so well. Once we played Seattle, we changed the locker room philosophy. I think, except for the game right after that, we actually have had more success after that match. So those are the things.
Yeah, the Open Cup for sure can definitely be something that, not only is sort of a propellant, but really brings the team together. The Hounds went on a really good run last season, and we dropped out really early this year, which was disappointing. But the thought was, we'll just focus on the USL, and then we've still been struggling there. So it hasn't been great, but I totally get everything you're saying. I love the ties tie in. It feels like the Hounds are constantly looking for sponsors for every random thing you can possibly think of. So you may have just given them an idea. I'll be sure to let you know if we start seeing it pop up at Highmark Stadium as something that they start promoting. Luis, what is something, a lot of people from Pittsburgh are going to be listening to this. Jared mentioned some of the players. I want to get to some of the players here in a minute. But what is something that you want to share with people who may not be familiar with Sac Republic that, you think they should know? Maybe it's somebody in Sacramento that has no idea who the team is, and you go up to the first time and you say, hey, listen, this is something you need to know. What's something that you think everybody should know?
I need to give the man a shout out, because I've been really impressed by the years he's been with us. He's been already with us for quite some time. Our coach, Mark Briggs. We could be down in a match, we could be losing at halftime, and the man just knows his way with words. We've heard some of those halftime speeches, but other ones, we don't hear. But whatever he says at halftime that we don't hear, it works with the players, and they understand him very well. I mean, the squad that we have this season, most of those players have been with us already for quite some time, and I think the team is just starting to gel well together. Last weekend, us getting the win, Russell making a comeback. Even before that, us winning 5-2 at Oakland was a massive win for us. And Sharon and I actually got the chance to go travel to that game. And I feel like, if anything, Pittsburgh Riverhounds are getting us, I think, at the wrong time. Because if you guys would have played against us like 2 weeks ago, we were at an all-time low. I know we were at second place, but our feelings weren't too good because at home we still haven't won since June 29th, actually a month since of this recording, when we beat Hartford. But we were just feeling low. We tied 0-0 against North Carolina, and even though we tied, it just felt like we didn't get anything out of it because we really should have lost, right? But North Carolina, they just couldn't finish at all. Otherwise, it could have been like a 3-0 loss easily. So everything's feeling great. People are feeling really hyped up, with these last 2 away wins. And yeah, all I would say is, when you come to Sacramento, it's going to be a really loud atmosphere. And so be prepared to be, hearing us be out there loud, Sharon and I included, because we sit right behind the bench. So for everyone watching on TV, you'll definitely hear us when you're watching the match.
Yeah.
I love that.
Luis leads the chant in Ref You Suck.
See, that's something we all have in common. So yeah.
You know the pain.
Yes. Oh yes. Yes. We do. We picked up a straight red at the end of our last game. That definitely not a straight red, but yeah, I feel your pain, Jared. I mentioned how Sac Republic is sort of perennially near the top of the table, not just in the West, but for the whole league. I had a conversation with the guys in Louisville, who Louisville always seem to be perennially top of the East, near the top of the league. Why do you think Sacramento is just always sort of there in that conversation when people are talking about the best teams, just sort of year after year after year? What's the secret?
Well, what I like to think of it is from day one in 2014, we've always envisioned ourselves as, being on top, being the revolution leader in U.S. soccer as we can. Yes, we're playing in a second division, but we have that Euro mentality, the Premier League mentality. That's our weakest link. I mean, there has to not be any ultimately. But for 10 plus years, I mean, we've acquired some of the best in the soccer world that we can bring to the second league division. And with the chemistry that we have with both the coaching, the playing, the fans, I mean, you can't really compare a lot of it to other clubs. I mean, it's just unique to Sacramento, and we've always had proven results, with the exception of 2021. But the majority of our years, we expect the best from them, and they provide it. 9.5 times out of 10, they're going to give it to the crowd. They're going to give it to their opponents. I mean, we have not been known to be sub 500, nor do we want to be sub 500. I mean, it's all or nothing as far as our club goes, and ultimately, it's finding what works, grinding out what doesn't, and just continually polishing up the end result that is Sacramento Republic FC. I mean, we've gone through some of the playoff fixtures. We've played against international teams over the years, something I wish we would kind of do. But overall, we want to bring a top tier product to Sacramento.
You just mentioned sort of the European mentality. You mentioned bringing this top tier. Sharon, just a few minutes ago, you talked about bashing the MLS. I did want to ask Sharon, I'll ask you here. There was a lot of chatter about Sacramento to MLS. What are your guys' thoughts on that? I mean, we see Indy is sort of going through a similar kind of issue now where, the supporters are behind the team, but then you have the mayor come in and say they're pushing for MLS. And there's always this sort of push and pull. But from a fan standpoint, where do you guys stand on this? What are your thoughts?
Okay, so we had this initially when we were awarded the the bid for MLS, and then we had this, and it was like, oh, then it was kind of put on the back burner, and it was like, oh, it's probably not going to be you, and then all of a sudden we had the whale come in, and we were like, okay, it's going, and then we had this when the whale walked away. So because we've had our heart broken a couple times, we're kind of steeled a little bit, and I hate to say this, but we're a bit jaded, and we're just happy as can be in USL Championship League. Our feelings about MLS is, we've got a love-hate relationship with Don Garber. I'm sure if he waved the magic wand over us and all of a sudden we had it. So our ownership group knows that no republic, no party. So they know that they have to take this republic to the MLS if they're going to go, because otherwise they're going to lose their fans. I mean, let's face it, we're a 3-horse town with only the Kings being the other major pro sport, and then the River Cats, baseball, of course, the A's are coming to town, whatever. And then us, there's other subsidiary, other teams and the women's teams and things like that. But there's a finite number of fans. And without this fan base, they don't stand a chance to live. They have to have this exact fan base going forward. So that's the story. I'm sticking with it. And, if we get MLS, great. I'm sure we welcome it, but we're more focused on getting a freaking stadium. I mean, the club, I don't know if you know this, Mike, but the club moved their office location to the downtown corridor by the Kings, by the arena where the Kings play. And that is one step closer to the rail yards where our stadium is going to be built. We're more hyped about getting a real soccer specific stadium that's our own and not a rental at the state fairgrounds. We're way more better. That's where our mentality is. So I hope I answered the question.
Oh no, for sure.
Yeah,
For sure.
I mean that's kind of our shtick as fans.
I'll put it this way: Sharon has the cleaner version as far as our status with MLS. I know this is probably a family podcast, so I'll just say there's a shirt from Detroit that I've ordered, and I'll leave it to the imagination, or we can talk offline as far as that particular shirt goes. But it's not exactly endearing to MLS. Sharon and Luis have seen the shirt, and I posted it on social media. So we'll just leave it as that. That way you won't have to get any kind of explicit rating on this podcast. So we'll just go with that.
Yeah. Appreciate it. I listen.
Sacramento hates you too. Sorry.
Well, that shirt, I got that shirt too, but yeah.
If I can add one thing on that, and I'm sure you mentioned the fans, the people want MLS. I think people do, but I think at this point, because of what happened, all that, I think a lot of people already just kind of lost the hope of that's probably not going to happen anymore. Yet we're still seeing the stadium sell out multiple times. Open Cup is the perfect example. Against Seattle, it was just a magical event, right? And even against San Jose Earthquakes before that. So I think even if we just stay in USL, there's still people that are like, you know what? I'm still going to support this team, whether there's MLS or not. And we're just going to keep paying cheaper tickets than we will if we go to MLS, and also community involvement too, since you know how MLS teams are with their players. You can't really even talk to them. So
that's one of the things that I really appreciate about the USL. I think that novice fans will automatically assume, well, you don't have MLS, then it doesn't really matter. But I think once you get connected with these teams and you actually get to sort of know the players and the relationships in the community, all of these teams, you're talking about building your own soccer specific stadiums. All of these teams are growing for the most part. Like the Hounds are going from a 5,000 seater to a 15,000 seater. And what I hope, in the sense that I get from talking to various fans and teams, is that relationship between the fans isn't going to change. And when you look at what's happening in MLS and you look at sort of all of the money games and the player movement, and yes, you might see players that are worth more money, but soccer, football, it's so much more than that. And I think once you actually do get fans into the stadium and you get them with the supporters groups, it's that atmosphere, it's that relationship. That's what's going to propel the USL forward. So I think the next 5 to 10 years is going to be very, very interesting to sort of see how the growth of soccer continues. And I see, Sacramento as sort of the forefront of that as well, as one of those teams that, sort of put their flag in the ground and said, we are who we are, and, we're going to take you guys with us. So I think that's fantastic. Louise, we mentioned just a second ago that you guys do have some former Hounds that were fan favorites for us, specifically Vitiello, Shane Wheat, Russell Cicerone. How are our guys doing? I think I've actually had each of them on the show at one point when they were Hounds. So how are our buddies doing over there?
Oh, they're doing amazing. Danny is our legend. So sorry that you guys had to part ways with them too, but he has been so fundamental in pretty much most, if not maybe all the wins we've gotten since he joined us too. I mean, he is one of the reasons. I mean, of course, it's a collective as a whole, as a team, but he is one of the reasons why we made it to the Open Cup final. he had so many saves against Sporting KC in that semifinal game, and not to mention the PK shootout as well. I mean, he's the one who ends up stopping two, although they claimed he, one didn't count and all that, but I still think it should have counted. But yeah, he was instrumental in that, and he's just a really just awesome guy all across the board. Russell Cicerone, he was out on injury for like 2 months, just came back now in this last game, scores a goal. I mean, just joined us last season, and he also became a fan favorite that we were all just counting the days, checking up on him, wanting him to come back because he made such a big difference last year that this year we really need him back. And then Shane Wheat, he's been, doing much better this season than he was in previous seasons, and we're really glad to see that. I got his jersey. I got one of his match-worn jerseys out of a thing that the team does every year during Christmas time with the mystery box. And so I'm really glad to see him back on the pitch and to see him up his game this season, and already get a goal on his birthday too, 2 weeks ago against Oakland, which was really awesome. We even sung happy birthday to him over at the parking lot, even though he didn't really want that. But, everyone who was out there, we all sung him happy birthday. So yeah, all across the board, thank you so much, Pittsburgh, for, giving us 3 awesome players who we hope never leave us, but we understand if they have to move on to a higher division,
Yeah,
Listen,
I can just see them turning 40 with Sac Republic, and it's like, oh, I could still do it, Sonny.
Listen, we have King Kenny over here who I think is turning 34, 35, and like he will stay a Hound forever. So I totally empathize with that. And it's one of those things again too. I'm happy for those guys. Like if they aren't doing it in Pittsburgh, knowing them personally, I'm just glad that they're finding success somewhere else and have a fan base that supports them. So, kudos to you guys for embracing them and, making them part of your community. I think that's fantastic. I won't love it on Saturday, but like, yes.
Right. So Mike, it's funny. Soccer is such a sport of love that all of the players that have gone through Sac Republic, we follow a lot of them. And we love on them from a distance, except when they play us. Like Joaquin Rivas is one of our favorite loves of all time. Matt Mahoney is one of mine. He's playing for Colorado. I mean, we've got guys all over the place playing for other teams, playing for other countries for that matter. And we still keep an eye on them. Josh Cohn, when he, goalie, and he went over to Maccabi Haifa in Israel. I mean, like we're on him, and we interviewed him from over there, right? And so
that's cool.
That's what soccer does. I mean, I think it's different than a lot of other sports. A lot of other sports are so, you have to only root for your team, your guys, although Jared at football will probably disagree with me. But anyhow, American football. But I'll tell you, we just love anybody who's come through our squad. And I know you guys are probably the same way.
Yeah, for sure. Guys, let's talk a little bit about this game this weekend. Jared, I'm going to go to each of you. I want to get your guys' thoughts. Jared, how do you think this one plays out?
Well, it's definitely going to be a bit of a slugfest. I know Pittsburgh, just like the city's nature, they are hard nosed. Blue collar workers. They are going to dig deep into the trench and fight us with everything they've got. But ultimately, I think Republic FC is going to edge out at least 2-1 on this. But definitely a big effort from both clubs in this.
It's fair. Sharon, what do you think? How do you think how do you think the score prediction comes out?
Well, I predicted 2-0 on our podcast that I don't know if it's posted yet, but I predicted a 2-0 win for us. However, Luis reminded us that there's a couple of ties in between, life and today. So I know Pittsburgh is going to be kind of nipping at our heels, but we've played you a couple times. And I think we know what we're doing. And now that with Russell Cicerone back, I don't know. I'm feeling a 2-0. We've got to score at home, and I'm feeling this is the match we're going to do it. Sorry, but not sorry.
Listen, we'll see how it plays out. But at this point, there's nothing that you guys have said that I've disagreed with. So I think you're pretty safe. Luis, how do you think it goes?
Well, just as I mentioned earlier, we haven't won a match at home in exactly a month from now as of this recording. And so I think it's going to be a little more even. I still think we get the win 1-0, but it's going to be hard fought. It's going to be one of those goals that happens more towards the end of the match. But yeah, I mean, last 2 games that we've played against you guys, they were ties, as Sharon mentioned. With last year, the 0-0 tie away, the 1-1 the year before. So just we've had close games in recent history. So I see it just playing out the same way. But I do at least feel a little more confident, like I mentioned, than I would have if you would have asked me this question the last home game where we tied 0-0 against North Carolina. I probably would have felt more like a tie or even a loss, because that was our feeling going into the Oakland game. I was even the one who like bravely was like, I think we're gonna lose this match. I think Sharon, Jared, one of them said tie. Someone else I think was confident that we would get the win there. So I'm just glad we're in a much better situation now, because it was a bit rough watching that last home game, and I just hope we don't have a repetition of that game, because it was the most I don't know, it was the worst like 0-0 game I've ever seen. And I know 0-0 games aren't normally fun, but that one in particular just was the definition of 0-0.
Well, and to add to everything, Luis, you and I were talking a little bit off air. It sounds like it's going to be a scorcher out there as well. So not only are the Hounds going to be contending with traveling east to west, but high temperatures and, you guys sort of getting rust back. And it just sounds like it's going to be a bit of an uphill climb for the Hounds. Guys, this has been fantastic. I really appreciate the insight. We mentioned you're part of the State of the Republic podcast. Luis, tell everybody, where can they find you guys online, social media, all of that?
Yeah, they can find us at State Republic 12 on Instagram, also on Facebook. Just search State of the Republic podcast. We have a website, sacsoccerpod.com, and people can listen to us there. They can watch some of our YouTube videos. We have that hooked up on the website, and they can leave us comments, contact us. Anyone has any questions about our players or about maybe wants to check in on how the former Riverhound players are doing, just let us know, and we talk to them after every match. So we'll be there. We'll get your shout out, or we'll like mention them. We'll be so and so says hi, right, if they know them. So
yeah, guys, this has been great. Thanks again. We do enjoy watching the Republic from afar. Obviously, I'm hoping the Hounds can maybe get a point this weekend, but I think it's probably going to go your guys' way. But obviously after this game, best of luck, just tearing everyone else apart, just have at it. Again, really, really appreciate you guys talking to us. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
And thanks everyone else for watching and listening. Be sure to subscribe wherever you get your podcasts or on YouTube, and we will have more Hounds content coming at you very, very